Good morning, all. Now I invite the community, our moderator Amrita Jain, to introduce the panelists.
Thank you, Rohit. Thank you so much for such a good insight on what our community is all about and how can all the listeners right now can join our community. So the industry is very rapidly changing these days with respect to technologies, with respect to infrastructure, people, processes, and management. And keeping up with all of this changing industry dynamics, most of the organizations are now moving towards the agile way of working. When the industry was picking up pace into this movement of agile, came the pandemic, and this pandemic changed the entire working and thinking completely of organizations and individuals. So it would be interesting to hear today from our panelists of how the agile works with distributed teams when the agile principles itself says that the teams should be co-located, and how are they trying their best to make sure that the distributed teams are working to the best of their efficiencies. So to brainstorm on this, Jaipur chapter today has invited our four panelists to share their experience and insights on the subject. So moving ahead, firstly, I would like to introduce myself. So I am moderating today's panel discussion, and I'm working in the capacity of principal consultant at ATCS in Jaipur. I have a total experience of 12 years in process strategy and implementation, in agile transformation, project management, delivery and release management. I have expertise of working in multiple domains, which includes banking, hospitality, automobile, and Salesforce. Next, I would like to invite Lakshmi to please introduce yourself to the panel. Lakshmi.
Thanks, Amrita. Good morning, everyone. My name is Lakshmi Yadav. Currently, I am the CEO of Dark Beers Private Limited. Our head office is in Jaipur. I have 12 plus years of industry experience, and I started my career with Wipro and followed by Mindtree and Matrix Stream, RSAM, and worked with both service and product-based companies. Eventually, I moved to Jaipur and joined Dark Beers as a senior project manager and was promoted to CEO. Besides the work, what motivates me is to spend time with people to understand what motivates them to do the best work in their lives, because along with the technicalities, I believe it is the human part of the business that take things forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Lakshmi. Nirmal.
Thanks, Amrita. So I'm Nirmal. I have close to 13 years of experience as a technical architect, delivery manager, project manager, and I'm associated with programmers.io, where our head office is in Jaipur, and I'm also looking for the offices in Pune, Hyderabad, and also in office in Texas. I have experience in different domains, starting from banking, finance, ERP, e-commerce, manufacturing as well. And I started my career as a developer, then moved to the role of solution design, architecture design. And currently I'm working as a delivery manager as well as the team manager. Yep. And also doing stakeholder management, scope management, resource management at programmers.io.
Great. Thank you, Nirmal, so much. Shailesh, can I request you to please introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, good morning everyone, and my name is Shailesh, and I'm majorly like the role that I'm playing right now is delivery manager for Apelio, which is part of Wipro, and they primarily look into Salesforce implementations. So I basically head their automation and UAT roles for India region specifically from Salesforce perspective, and I also manage the complete like I have a team of around 30 plus folks, which varied from roles from UAT leads to QA leads to automation leads as well.
Awesome. Great. Thank you, Shailesh. Shubham, could you please introduce yourself?
Thank you, Amrita, and hey everyone, welcome you all on this Sunday morning. So I'm currently working as a product manager in a US-based startup called Punch. I have over 6 years of experience across skill sets around product management, strategic partnerships, and alliances. And I primarily have a knack for exploring new products that solve the real world problems, customer pain points, and I actually am very enthusiastic about building them as well.
Great. Thank you, Shubham. So it's a pleasure to having all of you on board today and sharing your insights and experiences on the topic. So to quickly brief everyone who's on the call of what we mean by distributed teams is earlier the concept was that only we had like, the major team was co-located and we had small teams which were distributed geographically. But now with the pandemic, we see that every individual is now remotely located. So that would be the main essence of today's discussion, that how are we managing with these distributed teams and how is agile working in tandem with distributed teams. So to start with the panel discussion, my first question to the panelists would be that how do you propose one should plan work in a distributed agile team? I would request Nirmal to please share his thoughts and opinions on this question. Nirmal.
Yep, thanks, Amrita. And first of all, thank you for having me part of your panel discussion. Agility with distribution teams, which has become my favorite topic in last few months, and thanks to COVID for that. I'll be sharing three important points. The main, which key points which I took from 6 months back for my experience, that how one should plan for the distributed teams. First one, everyone first should check their particular business model and what tools they have available in their organization to set the distributed capability. Having right tools to manage your team is very much important. So like there are n number of tools available in the market. For example, you would need tools for the communications like Google Meet, which we are doing, or Skype or MS Teams, as well as you would also need tools for the work distributions and your scrums like Jira and Trello. Second important point is that before we start with the distributed teams, we should know your team's strength and weakness. This is required so that people located at a different location can help each other and we can assign the right task to the right person. And coming to the last point, which is not the least, to set up the distributed capability, is to have some activities within your team so that people know each other outside your work. The one problem which we faced when we started with distributed teams is that people were just working in their home office because you cannot have lunch breaks together or coffee breaks together. So what we did in our organization, we started online Fun Friday activities, where we invite everyone to join 1 hour fun sessions. We prefer to have video calls so that you can see each other. It's like you are doing together, and then we play some interactive games. Even we always encourage different groups to organize these sessions so that you have a variety of activities every time. So these are the three key points which I think would be required whenever we start or before we plan for the distributed works.
Great, thank you. Thanks,
Amrita,
Nirmal, for Shailesh.
Amrita, I just want to add a few pointers to Nirmal that he rightly said that there is an important need to make sure that the team's strength and weaknesses so that you can plan their work accordingly. But I think there is an important piece that remains still there is the customer expectation. So it's very mandate for now that when we are working as distributed agile team, we need to ensure that the customers do get the due credit for whatever they have been asking for, and we need to make sure that the individual responsibility to ensure that they achieve the timelines and redefine the priorities individually as well is taken into account. So it holds a very true sense that we keep on having daily scrum calls to make sure that they drive the velocity of the complete team, and you have a positive sense as well in the team that they are moving in the right direction, and their prioritization of the work being distributed with them as well is planned accordingly so that the timelines can be achieved. So which is definitely now is more taking into advance that you have more daily frequent connects with the team and how they have the individual problems as well. So that it should be discussed as well with them.
Great. Thank you, Shailesh and Nirmal, for sharing your perspective on this particular question. So yeah, that's definitely true that all the human touch is now being taken over by the tools and technologies that we are using. And how is the tools and technology? This is basically the infrastructure that is involved. And my next question on the same lines is the Indian infrastructure well equipped for distributed teams? Lakshmi, I would like to hear from you from the perspective of, because you are heading an organization. So I would like to hear from you that as an organization, or as coming as part of an economy, do you feel that the infrastructure today now is well equipped for handling distributed teams? Lakshmi.
Sure, Amrita. So I think the answer to this question, whether Indian infrastructure is equipped for distributed team, the answer to this is both no and yes. When I say no, I mean initially, when this whole process started and the distributed teams became distributed individuals, and people preferred to move to their respective places. Probably somebody would prefer to stay with their parents in a remote area, or a village in Bikaner. So initially, infrastructure-wise, network connectivity was a huge problem, right? But eventually, with trying and testing different modes, and thanks to Geo, that network is available even in the remotest of the areas, and then even the broadband providers, service providers, they have expanded their horizons, and they started serving in the new areas rapidly. They also understood that there is a need of network when people are working from home. So yes, initially there were a lot of challenges in network connectivity, but eventually we are getting used to it, and things are becoming easier. And I think the another physical infrastructure challenge was, especially for the businesses, small and mid-sized businesses like us, were the shared resources. Because we if we have a team of say 20 mobile developers, so providing all and 10 mobile QAs, so providing all latest set of mobile devices to everybody was difficult. So when you sit in a physical office, you share resources, you have a couple of sets, and then you share them among yourselves. But when people are working from their own homes, it was really difficult. So we had to think about something that which would solve this problem. So what we did was, we upgraded the servers. We put across the powerful systems and machines, so that multiple people can access the shared resources at the same time. Also, in terms of mobile devices, we subscribe to services like AWS service farms, device farms, which provides all sets of online. They provide different combinations of devices to test your applications. So those were the couple of things that we did to overcome this infrastructure related challenge.
Great, thank you, Lakshmi. It was really informative for us to know that how organizations are adapting to this new normal, and what changes are they bringing in their software and in their hardware infrastructures to support the teams to work from different locations. So I would also like to hear from you, Shubham, that as an employee and as a product manager, how do you feel about the Indian infrastructure, and how has it helped you in working with distributed teams?
Sure, Amrita. So, like Lakshmi had very well put the ground level challenges that one faced when this pandemic happened, and the infrastructural problem that were encountered at the fighting battle itself. Now, looking at the broader perspective on a bird's eye view, so I never doubted that Indian infrastructure is no less. I mean, we are a country with a billion people, and like most of the people own smartphones, and we have like so much internet accessibility. So that is one of the key aspects that comes into picture when it comes to working with the remote team. The communication needs to be seamless. The work needs to go without any problems. So I never doubted that. Yes, of course, the scaling up would have been a challenge, and that we have overcome eventually, because of course the systems and the resources were not scaled to actually handle such kind of a situation. And apart from that, one of the things that come into picture, apart from the infrastructure, comes the working style and the mindset. So particularly in India, so most of the people are not very acquainted with working in the remote environments, or how to collaborate remotely, or the work from home people. Work from home is a practice that is taken intermittently, and now when it became a completely mandate thing and a normal, so it was difficult to actually adjust to it. And that's like a human tendency. Whenever we find and encounter ourselves in a situation where change is there, so it's difficult to actually adapt to it. So that is something that we have adapted and actually utilized, and the different kind of tools that are available, as Rohit mentioned. So of course, each and every tool being used depending upon the organization size and what teams are comfortable with using. So I definitely agree that Indian infrastructure has that capability, and now we are in that position that we are able to collaborate and learn. We have adapted how we can actually contribute, even working remotely with our best of our means.
Thank you, Shubham. Thanks for sharing your insights on this. So, yeah, that's true that post, 6 months before, we might not have been so confident about the Indian infrastructure supporting us to work remotely. But now, with this new normal coming in after the pandemic, there has been an outburst of all of these different tools of video conferencing, of remote collaboration coming up, and the teams, the mindsets of the organizations opening up with respect to, allowing their teams to work from home and building that trust factor. And also it is allowing the employees to work from their comfort zones. So now that we know that, that almost everybody or almost all the organizations they are having their employees work from home in the best of the comforts that they want. And we also know that the greatest of ideas come up when, a person is in his comfort zone, when he's in a relaxed mindset. So I would, on the same thoughts, on the same lines, I have another question, that with this remotely located teams, which is now basically becoming like remotely located individuals, have we noticed any kind of new innovations or benefits coming out of it, that all of us are now in our comfort zones, in our own area, in our own den? So do we see that any innovations or benefits have come up? So Lakshmi, I would like to hear from you, your thoughts on this, that have you noticed something like this in your organization or among your employees? Lakshmi.
Yes, Amrita. So I think, Amrita, in tier 2 cities like Jaipur, where IT has just started flourishing, the biggest challenge that we faced was about talent pool. People would prefer to stay in Bangalore or Pune or Hyderabad, for that matter, where lots of big companies have their offices. So this was always a concern for companies like us, sitting in tier 2 cities. Where do we get great talent from? Because if you try to interview somebody who's everything else is fine, but just the location is problem, because they don't want to relocate to a city, another city, or a smaller city. So the one great thing that has happened in this pandemic is this has made us location independent. So now hiring people from all over the all over pan India, in fact, for that matter, all over the world, has become very easy. It doesn't matter whether you are sitting in Hyderabad, or you are in Jaipur or Jabalpur or Pune. It does not matter at all. So hiring has this availability of talent across the India has become really easy. So I think it is a great benefit for companies in tier 2 cities. So that is one biggest benefit that I see. Another one I would say is, Amrita, whenever you talk about before this pandemic has started, whenever you talk about, I would like to work from home, I'm not saying that, that was the situation for all the companies or all the employers. But, if somebody asks for a work from home, in back of everybody's mind, it would be like, this person might not be as productive as he or she would be in office. However, whatever up to whatever smallest of degree it can be, but that notion or that thought process would always be in back of our minds. But now that everybody has to work from home, so that thing is wiped out. Now both the employer and employee have their they have to trust each other for all the deliverables, right? The employers will have to trust their employees that whatever has been assigned to this person will be done. And the other way is also true. The employees know that even if I'm working from home, nobody is going to ask me. So I think this way the trust between both the parties has increased immensely, which is really important. Even though this trust factor is intangible, but I think it is a very important aspect to consider in any relationship, right? So I think this has this is another benefit that has come out of this pandemic. And finally, I think a lot of innovations have been done for making this work from home situation easy and fun. Say for example, the virtual background in Zoom, you don't have to worry about what is your background. You can make yourself look like you are sitting on Jupiter, though I didn't do it right now, but we have had an interesting conversation about it like a couple of weeks back, when one of my customer was, how are you, where are you, we were speaking after a long time. So I was like, where are you put up now? So he was like, I'm in Jaipur only. But I thought, he was, I was kidding with him, I feel like you are on Jupiter. So yes, so things like that have made work from home fun. Also the tools like Crisp.ai, where, background noises can be cancelled out. So all of us, when we are working from home, know the struggles of kids howling in the background, or, the pressure cooker whistles and everything. So I think tools like that have made life easier, and these innovations could only be done because such a major majority of people, especially in IT industry, was working from home. So I think these are a couple of benefits that have come out of this pandemic, or because of this pandemic.
Great. That's good to hear that, how the challenge was looked upon as an opportunity, and it led to the, I would say, exploring new products for video conferencing or for collaboration. So, of course, this pandemic has helped IT in this way. Shailesh, I would also like to hear from you on was there any kind of innovation benefits that you did or you saw your teams working on during this work from home culture or this distributed teams?
Thanks, Amrita. So definitely, I truly agree with what Lakshmi pointed out, saying that there have been different tools which helps us now to make sure that you don't have background noises. You have different backgrounds that are available for making sure that your background doesn't matter a lot when you are doing a video conferencing. But what happens now is that with this distributed team, right, you need to make sure that your individuals are motivated enough to get into an innovation zone. So definitely there is a time frame which now individuals have got, so that they can take their own time to innovate their day-to-day activities, how they want to make it sure. Because earlier, when you used to have normal office routines, there was a cost that we are not getting enough time to think about innovations and all those things. So that have now increased. So they have their own individual space where they can plan what they need to increase, how they can improve their productivity, how they can innovate things that they're doing on day-to-day life, which is monotonous, which becomes monotonous when you have office culture, right? With this, this is definitely an individual task to do it. But with this, what has happened is that HR have come up across with new different areas and new different norms as well, to make sure that individuals' development plan is in place to ensure that they grow in their own horizon as well. It's not only about organization ask anymore. It is like your organization ask clubs with your individual development plan to ensure the both individual as well as organization are moving forward with this new norm. Apart from that, another best thing that I would say has happened, and which has given benefit to employees, individuals, as well as the training sessions, which has become more flexible. Those are now recorded sessions you can take up any time. So that has also increased. So in last 6 months, if I talk about my own team itself, they've gone from certification from 30 to 72 certifications within last 6 months. So that has increased with the sessions being more remotely available, more flexible, and those kind of things have changed with thinking as well from individual perspective.
Sorry, I
Amrita,
was
you are
on mute.
speaking on, yeah.
Yeah. So this looks like after hearing from you and Lakshmi, it appears that the pandemic has done wonders to the IT industry, and it has given all of us an opportunity to enhance our skills, to think out of the box, to come out of our comfort zones and look up to this challenge as opportunities, and bringing in the best of ideas. And all the departments in the organization, talk about IT, talk about HR, or you talk about individuals, everybody is now thinking of different ways to keep the teams motivated, to keep the spirit going, and to keep the work going on with highest efficiency and productivity. So now, do you think that when we talk about agility, okay, we have a principle, Agile Principle 6, which talks about that the most efficient and effective method of conveying information in a development team is face-to-face conversation. But after hearing all these points so far, what I could understand was that now we are adapting to the new normal. So is it time to redefine this Agile principle? which says that face-to-face conversation is the best in a development team. Nirmal, I would like to hear your opinion and your thoughts on this, on redefining the Agile Principle number 6.
Yeah, sure, Amrita. So, as rightly said by other panelists, if we talk 6 months back, it was very much beneficial to have all of your team members co-locate at the same place, and you do face-to-face discussions. We call them in a meeting room and just talk to them. But in today's team, having all of your agile team members at the same location is practically impossible. It's not just because of COVID, but with increased globalizations, you cannot have all of your members sitting in the same office. Yeah, like we as a programmers.io, we have offices in Pune,
Right.
Hyderabad, Texas. So I cannot have everyone in one office. So face to face, although has great advantage, like you can talk to your colleagues whenever you want. You just go to their desk and say hi. You don't, and right now, like we have to ping them and ask for a call. Just for a 5-minute calls, it takes maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes. But with a lot of tools and the digitization it has done in last few years and the tools we have in the market, you can have virtual face-to-face discussions, and these tools have made communications much easier it was earlier. Initially we also faced a lot of issues, troubles, because we had team members who were in the office just for 1 week, like those were college graduates, and even some people have joined directly from their home. They haven't seen our office so far. So it was initially it was very uncomfortable for everyone, but now most of us believe like this new way of working will soon
Yeah.
become be a new normal.
Great. Good to know that, organizations, employees, everybody is adapting to this new way of working. Shubham, here would like to hear from you also on whether there is a need to now redefine the Agile principle.
Definitely, Amrita. I feel that this agile itself, like the definition of agility means a continuous incremental development. So back in the time when this principle might have been laid out, nobody would have thought that something like a pandemic could happen, and where we all will be sitting out and talking to each other in a box of like 4x4 squares using Zoom or any of the video conferencing tools. So definitely it needs some redefinitions, of course, and because we cannot define it as just only the face-to-face conversation and cannot restrict it to it. So, and I feel that it has given some benefits to the people who feel that they're not comfortable in expressing their ideas face-to-face as well. So while sitting behind the screen, they have that advantage. They are able to deliver their content in a very more confident way, right? And for most important of the aspect, what matters is the clarity of thoughts, the things that you are trying to convey. The other person is able to understand and grasp about it. That is the most important aspect, and for that, either whether you use a written communication way or you deliver it verbally or you use gestures, right? So everything is in order to deliver. So I don't think so the means generally matter. However, of course, in few aspects, certain aspects, this face-to-face conversations are inevitable. So for example, coming from a product manager standpoint and experience, so we in our regular day-to-day basis, we use whiteboarding, right, to share the flows, to convey our ideas to the team, how the things would work, how we would move from this screen to this screen. So that collaboration is difficult to achieve on a video conferencing. Although we have annotation and drawing tools available in Slack and Zoom, but we all know how comfortable and how efficient we are with playing with the mouse pads and mouse rather than scribbling with a pen or a marker, right? So that aspect is still missing, but I feel like this is an incremental learning for all of us. So somewhere out there, someone would still be trying to solve this a problem. This is of course a general problem for everybody, and I believe that somebody would be trying to solve this.
Rightly said, Shubham. Not everything can be replaced by digitization or online working. There are few things for which you really need a human touch to be available. You need a face-to-face conversation and interaction. And on this, and after hearing all of your points, I feel that yes, we have adapted to this new normal, we have adapted to this style of this remote individuals working. The concept of distributed teams has been there since a long time, but then it was not so predominant as it is now after this after the pandemic, and now we have individuals working remotely. But I'm sure that it might not have been easy for individuals or for organizations to adapt to this. So I would like to know that, how did you convert your co-located teams into distributed teams? What were the challenges that you faced in doing this, and how did you overcome those challenges? So Shubham, I would like to call you again to share your thoughts on this from a product manager's perspective, that what were the challenges you faced in converting your co-located teams to distributed teams with individuals being remotely located, and what did you do to overcome all of these challenges that you faced? Shubham.
Yeah, surely, Amrita, it was not an easy task, like I said. So if we are used to doing something, so it always takes a little bit of an extra effort to go and dive into and bring in those change habits. So a lot of challenges were there, but the most important challenges which I myself came across with my teams, and speaking with my colleagues and friends in other organizations. So the biggest challenges that I'll list down top 3 and 4. Right. So the first and foremost was actually collaborating with the teams, right? Because now that the professional and the personal life is getting mixed. Earlier, as a human mindset, as a psychology, when we step into the office, so we are not worried about the major aspects of our household, right? But right now, while sitting at home, while working from the office, we are juggling between the household chores as well as the professional work. So it was a mandatory discipline that we need to build up, and that took a little bit of time. Plus, with some people who have kids or who are actually staying with their families have to do some additional caretaking aspect for the kids and all, right? So in order that, so we as a team, like in my team, so we installed a practice that we first of all decided a vote polling and defined a time that we would all be available and comfortable to have any discussions on a daily basis, whatever time suits. And that was one thing. So it was a similar thing that we used to do in office, but in office environment, of course, it's the similar thing. But in household, it becomes a little difficult. So that was one thing that we first incorporated that actually enabled us to collaborate and bring in that discipline of work and schedule in our home perspective as well. The next challenge that we faced was the increased amount of calls, and the back and forth that used to happen. So earlier, what happened to you was that if I have a project and my team is there, one QA is there, one designer, one developer, so they can all just sink in and have a conversation face to face, and just sort it out right away. Now you cannot ask anybody to just completely and every time jump on a call to discuss like that way. So we developed the practice that if needed only we should set up a call, right? And otherwise we should use chat tools as long as possible. So if something can be done over a chat or an email, try to give it a preference rather than just hopping on a call. And also since our team uses Slack channels, so Slack has the ability to create smaller pods, smaller channels which can be created as groups. So as a current, if I'm working on a project with my team, so all those 4 people will create a small channel regarding that project, so that if I don't have to go back to a QA and ask something, and then he or she would go to the developer, and then they will come back to me telling this. And let's say if I have a developer has a query and he comes to me, I propose a solution, and then that solution needs after implementation needs to be tested by the QA as well. So I would have to communicate to her as well. So these multiple discussions, multiple number of discussions, so we reduce them down and using a group chat. So if I'm proposing a solution, so the QA can read it at their ease and they know, okay, this has been proposed. If there's any communication, they can right away do it. And everybody on the channel knows about it. It stays on the radar on each and everybody's perspective, right? And the third and most important term was the Zoom fatigue, right? This is a term that got introduced in the pandemic itself, and many of us might have here. It's basically, the increased amount of, again, the video conferencing calls, and the number of calls that I have. So as a practice, what we try to do is, so whenever we are calling in a meeting, it would be good to put up an agenda, right? And if someone is needed only for 5-10 minutes or something, so either just write down the point that is needed for him to be made aware of or action to be done, or otherwise please don't include him in that call if not needed as an optional, because if in a 45-minute meeting his job is for only for 5-10 minutes, then maybe those 35 minutes are of unproductive use for him, because he will have a he cannot have an undivided attention over a call as well as work simultaneously. And we know with increased number of calls, so the person need not to act as a facilitator, right? We are all so this actually empowers other people as well to carry out the things and do on their own, rather than having someone to organize it for them, and the product management team acting as a facilitator to bring all the teams on board until and unless it's necessary, or until and unless a product manager is required on that call, or anybody for a simple example. So the minutes of meeting can be shared, the points can be jotted down, and if something is there for that person to be looked into, then he can be discussed it further. But that definitely saves, let's say if there are 3 meetings and out of those only 2 are mandatory, 1, so you still save 40 minutes of time over 1 meeting, which is a good amount of time for any person to actually have reduced that mental stress or exertion that he goes through by all this number of calls.
Great. Thank you, Shubham, for sharing your perspective on the challenges that you faced and how did you overcome those. I would, Lakshmi, also like to hear from you from a CEO perspective or from an employer perspective, that as individuals, if I talk about, it's easier for us to adapt to this new concept of distributed teams, and the number of challenges we face definitely might be lesser than what you would have faced as an organization. So Lakshmi, could you please share your views on the challenges you faced with this distributed team concept and how did you overcome those?
Sure, Amrita. First of all, I think Shubham has captured beautifully all the important aspects of it. So more or less, I don't have any major points to add to it, but I'll just, give extension to Shubham's point from a employer's perspective. So yes, I agree. In fact, all of us agree that, communication was the biggest challenge that all of us face, because we as human beings, we crave that human to human interaction, and which definitely is absent in this scenario. So what we have done is, in Darkbase, what we have done is we have encouraged, rather than, asking for availability over Zoom or Google Meet or Teams for that matter, we encourage people to directly pick up mobiles and, call their subordinates or managers or whoever is, responsible or they want some advice from, because it saves a lot of time for everybody. So we have kept this open gate policy for everybody. It's not just for higher, like middle management. It's for everybody, which starts from right from the bottom till me. You don't have to, you can just go check my calendar, and if I'm not in a meeting, anybody can pick up their mobile phones and call me, right? So we make sure that we encourage people, because just keeping an open door policy doesn't mean that people would come in and ask questions, because not everybody is comfortable. But we make sure that we repeatedly tell them that it is okay to not wait for somebody to reply on a communicator. It's okay to pick up your phone and call that person. And it is working beautifully for us, especially in Darkbase, because we are not that huge. Probably for huge enterprises, that might not work, but for us, it is working beautifully. Yeah. And then second thing that after this pandemic has started was, how to keep our people motivated. And, when we are working from home, we are working from for long hours. So even if there's a small headache, we'll be like, okay, it's fine, I'll just take a medicine and continue with the meeting. But we time to time, we encourage our people that it is okay to take time off. If you had a severe headache or a backache when you used to come to office, then you would definitely take leave. So it's the same, right? Take care of your health. Health is the priority. and it is all right to take sick leaves even when you are working from home. So we have encouraged people doing that. And finally, as Shubham mentioned, this is very important, I think, for everybody, because now everything is online, all the discussions, all the meetings. So there are days, that you are on Zoom for 5-6 hours at a stretch, and it is really tiring. So what we keep on telling people is that, if you are not adding any value to the discussion, please leave. It is not rude to leave a meeting if you are not adding a value to that conversation. Because if there is this new developer who has joined, or probably a junior most developer, and there is the senior manager in the same meeting, so the junior guy would feel obliged to be a part of that meeting. And even if he is not adding any value, he is there and he's just simply wasting his or her time. So we encourage people that, whoever is done with their update, if they don't have anything important, so, you can leave that conversation, and it is not rude. Nobody is going to ask questions about you. So yes, Amrita, yeah, those were the couple of things that I wanted to mention.
That's great to hear, and also it's very, I would say, very comforting to hear from an employer that they have actually understood the challenges of individuals, because it's not easy. It's not easy for people to be working from home in the new normal. Everybody has different situations back home, and if there is and if we are lending a ear to the employees to listen to their challenges, to be always available for making the environment cohesive enough for people to approach the CEO or to approach the leaders of the organization, I think that's the best, and that can only support and encourage people to work more and more from home. So with this, there was a time when we used to say, when we were working from office 10 hours, 9 hours, we would say, oh, there is no work-life balance. We don't have enough time for family. There are organizations which even have Saturday working, and there they would, always complain about work-life balance. But now when we are actually sitting at home, that time we used to think even 4 work from homes is not good enough. There should at least be 8, there should at least be 10. But now when we are all working from home for all days of the week, and we are working for home and working from home, the last question that I have for my panelists today is that how is it that you are all maintaining work-life balance in distributed teams? So I would like to invite Nirmal to first share his opinions on this, that how is he handling this big question of maintaining work-life balance? Nirmal.
Yes, it's kind of a tough question, and work-life balance, which is most widely discussed topic nowadays. How I see work-life balance is how one distributes their time between their professional life and the personal life. And this work-life balance, of course, is a very important aspect for your health, your work satisfaction, as well as long-term productivity. Because with this new nature, work from home, where everybody is doing, working from home, this work-life balance is somewhat compromised, because people are working now for long hours, they're more flexible. But I still feel that you should have a quality time with your family and friends, because now everyone is saving a lot of time in commute, and then we have flexibility to live wherever we want or work from wherever we want. So with the extra time which we have for both work and your family, we should plan after work hobbies, or take frequent breaks between your daily routine, which is now acceptable by most of the companies. You go and play with your kids, help them with their homework, or spend time with the parents, talk to them, to have better work-life balance.
So Nirmal is beautifully managing the work from home and work for home concept, and he has a good balance set up for both of them. I would like to ask Shubham the same question, that how is he maintaining this work-life balance in a distributed team? Shubham.
Yeah, sure, Amrita. So essentially, it's what's more important is always take some breaks, right? It's not necessary that you have to just sit on your screen and continuously strain yourself and just you have to clock only 4 hours or something. So I kind of follow the principle where there's this YouTube video I came across. It mentioned the gist of it was, so it's good to actually relieve your brain and give it some breather. So what it's all about, the dopamine. So when you're working, so if you're working for 1.5 hours, right? So then just take a bit of a dopamine dose. And now the dopamine is essentially a hormone that is released in our body. and it actually relieves out the stress. And for that, you can do anything that you want. So maybe if you like cooking, so you can just cook something. You can watch a 5 or 10 minute stand-up comedy, or maybe you can just have a game of, let's say, a small game with your friends, talk to them a little bit about it. So those dopamine releases actually relieves out your stress and helps you concentrate again. So and for people who are actually fans of working out, so they working out is considered as a very good stress buster, right? So they can actually focus on their health, and in the evenings they can do a workout at home. There are so many things that exercises and equipments that one can use of while working at home. So all these things definitely have helped me in focusing and in taking out and maintaining that work-life balance.
Amazing to hear. I believe everybody, all our panelists are pretty comfortable with this new way of working in distributed teams and working from home, and they all have adapted to this beautifully.
Okay, so I think Nirmal and Shubham rightly said that there is a huge responsibility on individual shoulder right now to ensure that how they manage their own work, what they have on priority, and how they manage their own life as well, right? Your work-life balance. So that now the other thing that I want to point out is that there is more responsibility on product owners and the delivery managers as well, that to ensure that how they can make sure that their employees are taking timely offs, and are they planning their vacations, or are they planning their PTOs properly or not? So are they getting their breaks individually or not? So it has become more challenging for POs to ensure that their individuals don't basically frustrate themselves when indulging the work for more than 10 hours a day. So that has become now product owners' responsibility to ensure that their teams are taking timely breaks. Apart from that, this is PO's responsibility. And apart from this, with PO, they come with the client management as well, the expectation that they have to set with customers. So until unless the individual dues does their due to ensure that PTOs are being managed properly and they are being communicated correctly to POs, so it becomes so that the POs can also set the expectation properly with customers, so that there is no last minute rush, right? So we definitely have production deployments over weekends and different things happening, right? Ensuring that these are also communicated early, so it becomes an individual responsibility to ensure that they communicate rightly to the POs to ensure that delivery can be managed. Another important piece again comes with this is the fun factor that Nirmal pointed out during the first question as well, right? There are fun Fridays that needs to be organized, and there is this is a new normal basically. So definitely during the work-life balance, when you go to office, you definitely have some 3 to 4 hours of every activity that happens within the office in a week, right? So it has become now the new normal that the team needs to organize the fun activities at organization level as well, bringing up new people into platform and giving them the new platform to ensure that they can ooze out their own stress, how they want to do a stress buster activity and all those. So those have become, and which basically is now increasing the participation of the customers and within the participation of the employees, and they are being now outspoken as well. So it has given benefit definitely overall.
Great. So, a lot of varied ideas of how our panelists have maintained the work-life balance in distributed teams, ensuring that their efficiency, productivity is not impacted, and at the same time, they're also able to spend quality time with their families when at home. So basically, it is all in the individual's own capacity to manage time, like how we were doing while we were working from office, the same way we manage things while we are working from home. So this was really insightful hearing today from all our panelists on how agility is being maintained in distributed teams, how the infrastructure is supporting this concept with new tools coming up, with organizations bringing in better servers, organizations bringing in better bandwidths, making sure the right hardware, the right softwares are made available. And also it lies in the hands of individual employees that they are becoming more responsible. The trust factor between the employee and employers is increasing because of this concept of distributed teams, and the employers are now becoming more approachable. So with all of this happening around in this, I believe that for the Indian IT, which is today our main topic today, the panel discussion, which is all around the IT sector, is that we have adapted beautifully to this new normal, and we are all now ready to move ahead working in the same way with increased motivation and increased spirits. So that was all from my side, and basically all the question that I had from my side for the panelists. And I would like to now quickly, I see there are a few questions which are already typed in the chat, coming in from the audiences. So the first question that I have, panelists today is, so this is open to everyone. The first question that I have today is that, did any of you find or see results in productivity of an individual or team going down after this permanent distributed team model that has come up? So I would like to ask this question to Sailesh, you, that have you seen any decrease in productivity of an individual during this, due to this
Uh,
distributed team concept?
Yes. So Amrita, thank you for this opportunity. So basically, yes, there was a dip in productivity definitely from individual perspective, because they are not set with that pattern, right? You need to properly dress up for their office culture and enter into the space where they have the dedicated seat and everything. So definitely, initially there was a challenge where the productivity was being questioned and how the accountability was taken care by the employee. So now with the timeline that it has increased and it's becoming more normal, there was more kind of a round of discussions that happened with the employees, individuals as well, from delivery manager perspective, that how they can stay focused and ensure that their day-to-day productivity is not dipping. And apart from that, making sure that they have a dedicated time and a dedicated work desk basically and off in home, to ensure that their dedication is completely when they're on the seat, right, when they're on the desk. Apart from this, there is one more area that productivity comes with, how many times you have to collaborate within the team as well, right? So it comes when you are having different channels, like different tool set that you are available, like Teams, Hangout, Meets. So these basically are now increasing the communication chat. They are breaking the ice basically of human touch.
Right.
Basically, it's more from you have gone to video conferencing now. Initially, it was more over phones, and you were just hanging out on phones and making sure that your work gets enabled. But now it's more from presentation perspective. That has increased now. So there was definitely an initial dip, but now it has increased a lot. So there's no more a dip basically that you can say. You can say yes, there might be a dip of 5% to 2%, which is now which will now eventually cover as well with the time. But yeah, definitely it has not that much impacted nowadays.
Right. So that I
Amrita,
believe.
just to, add Salish's point, as I said previously as well, that initially everybody thought, since everybody would be working from home, so that decrease in productivity would multiply. But I think after the initial hiccups and the physical infrastructure challenges were we overcame that. So eventually, and that trust factor that I talked about, that eventually that trust has built up. So initially there was a dip, but yes, as Sailesh rightly pointed out, eventually we have overcome that, and now I don't think there is any difference in productivity. That 5-10% that would always remain because of the reasons that we can't control. But now I think everything productivity wise, we are back on the track, because we have
Right.
learned to live with that.
Right. And I believe any new thing that comes in will always have a little dip in productivity and efficiency to begin with. Even when we talk about, introducing the concept of agile into a traditional working team, there is always a dip in productivity. So anything new that comes in will always bring along with it a little dip in productivity. But yes, the team matures with time, and by adapting to everything new, it matures with time, and then it eventually increases. Nirmal, I would like to know your opinions on this from a delivery manager perspective, because you are currently working in the capacity of delivery manager. That in there, do you see, have you experienced anything like this?
So as Lakshmi said and the Shailesh pointed, it was a mix. Like initially, of course, there was a dip in productivity, not for everyone, but for few individuals, because it was quite a new for them to have working from home. Like because of lack of infrastructures, broadbands, and electricity issues. But now but when it become a normal after a few weeks, in fact, it has reversed. The productivity has increased. Initially, like people, I guess, because in office you had barriers. You have cabs timings. You have to go out at a
Right.
predefined time. But now people are more flexible. You can take breaks in the morning or afternoon if you have long hours meeting, if you have evening meetings. So productivity, as of now, I would say productivity has increased at least by 20 to 25%.
That's great. So overall, it's been like a mixed experience with an initial dip, and then finally we are all in a stable position now, and we are seeing an increase in productivity with the teams working in comfort zones. Lakshmi, the next question that I have is for you. That you mentioned that you have an open door policy where employees can reach out to you, you can reach out to employees. So do you think that this has impacted, or does this impact an individual personally? Like, for example, if you are calling them, okay, so it becomes kind of an obligation for them to always answer the call immediately at any point of time. So how do we ensure that there is the right balance brought up between this, that with this open door policy in picture, where you are approaching them, they are approaching you, how is the balance brought in?
So Amrita, I think this is a very organization specific question. What kind of culture that you have in your organization? In Dark Beers, we have inculcated a culture where I'm just not a tag. I'm CEO does not mean that I'm not approachable. I cannot, people cannot talk to me. So that is very specific to a particular organization. And again, when I say that we have kept this open door policy and we encourage it. So when I say we encourage it, that means we encourage it bottoms up, not top down. Right. So I, as you said, people will feel obliged to answer me. So I would prefer not to call somebody directly and ask questions. I would probably, call their managers or somebody. But I try to keep the gates open the other way. That if somebody at, lower at hierarchy, if they want to contact me and call me, I'm all right with them. But I try not to, intimidate people and call them at odd hours or ask questions directly with them, unless I have their, I try to maintain that hierarchy.
Right. So I believe the information flow has to be managed, that bottom to top rather than top to bottom, to unnecessarily to not intimidate the employees and to make obligated to attend calls. That's a good approach. I hope the audience, this might have answered your question. My next question is to you, Nirmal, that how do you manage the teams in Agile, and how is it different from the traditional way of managing teams? Nirmal.
Yeah, thanks, Amrita. So, like traditional way was having your stand-ups in a room, right? And because initially when we opened our office in Jaipur, we had only one office, so everybody was sitting in Jaipur. So it was very convenient. We had call everyone for the scrums in a room and talk to them. But with the globalization, we had to open offices in other places like Hyderabad, Pune. So initially it was a problem then, but with the tools available, we have MS Teams where now we schedule a scrum where everybody comes with a video, and the scrum even have a together mode where it feels like you're sitting together. So with the tools have made that easy, and the Jira, of course, one for the communication and one for your work distribution, where you can see you can track the progress of everyone, how one is progressing, and if there are any impediments, they can easily convey on your MS Teams. So and even just before the COVID, we were doing trials where everybody was taking their calls from their desk instead of coming to a room, to make it feel like maybe we were trying for a future proof.
Right. Thank you, Nirmal. So basically, it's like training the teams on adapting with the new tools, adapting with the new environment, and starting it earlier. So the usual agile concepts are now being changed, or they are now being redefined a little bit, adapting to this new normal, the new thing that's coming in of distributed teams working co-located, using a lot of tools rather than more of face-to-face interactions. So I believe this question was well answered by you, Nirmal. Thank you. My next question is to Shubham. That Shubham, how should flexible working hours be achieved in the best way when we are working in distributed individuals, or should they even be achieved? Like that's what. How are you managing with this flexible working hour culture? Should you have it? Should you not have it? If yes, how do you manage it?
Yes, Amrita, I believe it's a very good policy in terms of the flexible working hours, because it gives an individual also the opportunity to not just, because every time if we are continuously working towards what we are just doing, right, then we will not be able to come up with the new ideas or new innovations or things that we come across, and will be able to implement them in our organization. So we need to do research how others are doing as well, and we need to take out time. So one of the key practices that I follow when in terms of a flexible working hours and as a individual is to create a to-do list. It's for any day, and do it twice a day. So before you start your day or before you plan your day, so list the items that you need to do for the day, right, and arrange them in terms of maybe the dependencies. So if you're a manager, or your teammates are expecting some answers from you, so first, if they are of the higher priority, you have to consider the priority in mind. It's like two things: the priority and dependencies. So try to cut off those, check off those items from the list that have you as a dependencies, and others are getting blocked from it. So first, clear out those items so that they can continue their work, and whatever now your work remains that you have to do as your own, right? So you can proceed with that, and do that at the end of the day as well, so that okay, these items are remaining, or some new items have come up, I need to tackle them tomorrow. So this exercise, doing twice a day, has definitely helped me to plan my day accordingly, to give me a bit of more working flexibility, right? And the next one is like time box items, right? So just like we have deadlines for projects and everything, so whatever work you are doing, right, try to time box it, because if you are going to extend, so ideally it's like a human research only. If we continue to put our mind to one task endlessly, then our productivity is not going to enhance. In fact, we might hit a blind spot as well, right? So take a step back, get some fresh air, right? Give it a break, switch to some different task that is of little low, that does not take that much of your bandwidth from the mental perspective, and then come back to the task later. I'm sure whatever you are stuck with, your solution, you'll be able to jump in, you'll be able to come up with a better solution, and you'll the picture that was hazy for you at that point of time will now be having a perfect clarity. So always time box thing, and don't time box it like that I want to work, okay, I need to cover it in 2 hours. No, try to keep it at a 45 minutes or 1 hour kind of a time boxing, depending upon the task, if you want to cover 2 tasks, but don't stretch it like continuously. Otherwise, you'll hit that mind block. And many of the third thing is like, I'm a big music aficionado, so I love listening to music, and it helps me as well. So it relaxes my mind. So parallelly, I just play on some music that where I don't have to pay, where my mind actually does not have to pay attention to the lyrics, right? It just listens that, okay, something is working at the same time that is, balancing out the load balancing that's being done at my mind level state. So these are a few practices that I follow. Maybe if somebody also follows the same.
Great. So, I mean, Amrit, I think this has answered your question of whether flexible working hours should be achieved while working from home with the distributed concept or not. While I was listening to you, Shubham, I think we talked a lot about work. I have a little fun questions coming in from Nidhi and P. Ranjan. So they would like to know, they would like to get examples of Fun Fridays. What all activities can be done as part of Fun Fridays, or what are the other team bonding games that we can introduce to increase the productivity of our employees who are working from home. Shubham, I would like to hear from you first on this.
Sure, Amrita. So one of one of my friends actually introduced me to this game, which I got to know about in pandemic only. So it's called Scribble.io, right? So what essentially it's online Pictionary. So what you have to do is you can join and create a private room, or right, 4 or 5 people. There's, I don't know the maximum capping of the number of participants. So what you have to do, the screen will pop up with 3 words, right? And the person would have to pick one, and they have to draw it, and the other persons would guess it. So it definitely gives you a bit more creativity, because it gives you an idea, and it gives you, so let's say the word is Batman, right? So the other person would have to draw the Batman logo, or maybe something that resembles to Batman. So it gives a very fun, frolic activity as well. And it gives your mind to draw things, and at times you can get comfortable with mousepad how to draw it. So that's one of the games that you can play. Then the other one is also I came across with the Psych. Many of people might have heard it. So it gives you to analyze and judge how the people respond, and in terms of the psychology, how the customers or anybody's mindsets work.
Amazing ideas. Shailesh, I would also like to hear from you about few of these Fun Friday concepts and other team bonding activities to ensure that our Jack doesn't become a dull boy.
So basically, what happened was Shubham definitely got on bang on with the sites names, that the Scribble.io
Right.
and sites, which helps us to plan it. But what happened was with me, I can say that there was 3 months down the line, I think, that started. So we started with Fun Fridays, and the team was like, what needs to be done and how it needs to be planned. So what happened was they came up with an idea where they innovated one turn style kind of things, and they had around 8 different sections, which has some has Bollywood, some has your memes, or some has options like game, dare, or you have a prank that you have to do, and something like that. So they came up with now 8 dials, and what will happen is somebody from the team will say that, okay, fine, it's his turn. So kind of an admin will actually click on the dial, and it will ping on to one particular section. So whenever there is a section that comes up, they need to identify what is being clipped on, whether it's a kind of a picture that needs to be depicted, or is it kind of a, you can say, a small dance move that needs to tell us, or they need to do on the live camera. So that would bring in more creativity and more kind of a, you can say, the working, more collaboration basically, and a fun way of doing it. So that was kind of an innovation plus your gaming things that happened within the team itself. So it was like internally developed by the team, and then they had a pool of questions that come up for different sections, and the person has to do that. So it was like that. So that definitely helped it. And now it's kind of a daily activity that on Friday you have 1 hour section, in 1 hour time slot, which has the maximum participation now all across the team, right? So they come up
Right.
together, they play it around.
Great. I'm Nidhi and P. Ranjan. I believe this has answered well your questions, and you are taking back these ideas to your organizations and implementing this next Friday. And we look forward to some way hearing from you how this went. I am definitely taking back these ideas to my HR and ensuring that we have really fun-filled Fun Fridays this week. Moving on to a little serious topic now.
I think
Next question.
Nirmal also wants to
Yeah,
add.
Amrita, I just
Sure,
because
Nirmal.
like my team organized one very beautiful, Fun Friday. What they
Uh-huh.
did, they collected childhood pics of most of our, team members, and they asked everyone to guess. So, and the good
Okay.
thing was most of the people were, like they were able to guess. It was like childhood from maybe 5 years old,
Right.
or you were like 3 years or 6 years old. So, and one of our team members was very quick to guess that.
That's amazing. I mean, brilliant ideas coming in. I really wish, we had more of HR people joining this panel
Yes.
discussion today. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing these wonderful ideas of how Fun Fridays could be done and how we can keep the team motivated. Next, in the line, I have a question coming in from Shantanu Bhattacharya. And Lakshmi, this question is for you, that how, like we talked about people performing, people working with increased productivity, efficiency, but there cannot always be success stories. Okay, there might definitely be a few non-performers on board who are also working in the same environment. So how are you managing these non-performers, Lakshmi?
So first of all, Amrita, there is a proper task that are assigned to a particular individual for a given week or a given sprint or a month. So that is directly managed by their managers or people directly, that is managed. But still, if that is and suppose there's somebody who's not completing it, so first of all they'll have a one-to-one discussion. If you have a problem, what is it that is stopping you from giving your best, are you healthy? Is there anything back home? Something, if you are not happy personally, you definitely cannot perform professionally, right? So, we will have that kind of discussion. And if there is anything that we can do, in fact, in past last month, we have had couple of incidents where, people had personal issues. So we asked them to take 2 weeks off, sort it out and then come back. And then there was this one girl who wanted to leave us because of some personal issues. So we suggested her it's okay to take to go on a 2 months leave to sort things out personally and then come back. So the first thing that we do is to ask the person why he or she is not being productive, right? And if there is a reason that we cannot help, then we'll definitely tell them, this is what is expected out of you, and that is not being done. So please, improve upon it, right? So that's the like direct conversation with them. If there is nothing that we can help with, or there's nothing wrong with that person. Otherwise, it's simple. You can't deal. If you can't deal with such people, we'll tell them that you are not working efficiently, and you'll have to improve it. There's no other way of saying it and doing it, right?
Right. That's the tough way, but yeah, that's the only way. Right. Thanks, Lakshmi, for sharing your opinions. And Shantanu, I'm sure this might have answered your question. We talked, Lakshmi, while you were answering, I just, you said something about that the goals are defined. We have the sprint backlogs predefined, and we have the tasks predefined for the individuals. So next question I have is not related to the distributed teams, but on the same lines of, and this question is for Shubham, and this is coming in from Ruchika, that what do you do when the sprint backlog item, is not completed till the end of the sprint? So you were given a task, but you were not able to complete it at the end of the sprint. So what should be done in such a case?
That's something that's a very realistic problem, because of course there are items that get stuck out or not completed in sprint. So that's why there are retrospective meetings in a sprint, and what essentially the task is. So why those items could not be completed? Were there any requirement changes regarding that task that increase the scope of that story, or was there some other priority task that came into picture that, or was it under scoped, or was some other stories under scoped, or something like that? So those items are identified. Those are the reasons which are actually tracked down and find out to understand why that story points were not completed, and those things are overcome while estimating the next sprint, and that's how the sprint velocity continues.
Right. That's like like a to the point answer. Sailesh, I would like to hear from you on the same thing, that
I was about to add, So I was about to add to the Shubham's topic, right? So definitely there is a huge thing that the slippage is always there from development side or from testing side. It's always there, and it was there even before as well. So it's every time within the sprint you have some slippage which goes to sprint to different sprints, and then you have final release, right? So what happens? So basically, it's more like when we redefine these kind of priorities within the team, it needs to align with what customers' MVPs are as well, right? So for each release, you have separate MVPs that customer is willing to look for, and then they keep on waiting for your demos to be planned within the sprint as well, right? So they are eagerly waiting what your team is going to upbring with them, and what kind of things are going to be evolved with passing days. So there comes responsibility for individuals as well, that Scrum Masters or the product owners needs to realign their team on daily basis. So that's where your 25 minutes of call or 30 minutes of call, your Scrum call, becomes way essential to ensure that your team velocity is maintained, your burn downs are getting impacted properly, and then eventually you have the final demo dates as well planned, right? You plan your demos at least 5 days in advance to ensure that the things keep on moving and don't litter at the end day, right? So that kind of a approach is always beneficial for within the from the product owner perspective and from individual perspective as well. They highlight that what is a blocker that they're facing, and definitely the blocker cannot always be on our side or a development side. It can be on customers as well as when it comes to system accesses, when you have integration pain points missing. So I'll share one recent example that there's an SIT that is right now planned, and it was scheduled to start from Monday last week, right? But eventually started on Thursday. So it was not a fault that your team did not do well, right? It was more from integration perspective, the system were not available from customer perspective, right? So they definitely encourage, they know that where the blockers are, but it's rightly said that you need to be transparent enough to ensure that you can back your team as well when it's required in front of customers, right? So then only you will gain the trust of team as well, right? Okay, fine. If you have some end moment thing that needs to be done and taken care, they'll be readily available to approach you as well and to do it for you. But yeah, so that's kind of it balances. It's at the both ends. It's not always at the individual side that your team is not able to deliver. It's from customer side as well that there are things that they will not be able to also deliver at their end as well. So it's more from thinking globally, not from only project perspective during the project. It's from global, like what business requires and whether there are challenges that might occur at the end stage. So it's more foreseeing and forecasting what can come up at the end.
Right. Thank you, Sailesh, for your insights and answers to this. On the same line, now we are running out of time. I see it's already 11:23. So this is the last question I have to ask Sailesh you. That we talked about our organizations, we talked about our employees, our employers, how we adapted to this new normal of distributed working. I would like to know from you, Sailesh, that what was the customer's perspective to this? How comfortable were they with this concept of all the team members working from the distribute? I understand that, for them it's not a major shift, but then yes, individuals working from different locations, when they hear this out, they actually, they just flip out saying that, okay, then nobody's available in the office. So what was the customer's reaction to this when they heard that the organizations are going to the distributed concept?
So initially there were not that much noise. I think initially there was a bit noise where customers thought that, okay, fine, you gave a development activity to an offshore center which has a dedicated seat and they have dedicated office where they always coexist. They coordinate together without any channels. So it's seamless coordination that they were looking forward to. And that was a mindset that they had before, right? So now when we move ahead to this particular challenge and now the team knows and the customers know that, yes, they are distributed now. And there's no human touch basically, or a kind of a face-to-face interaction that is going to happen. They have, initially they had some thoughts that, okay, fine, they might have, the productivity might get impacted. It's all usual questions. Your productivity should remain the same. You should give us 8 hours or 9 hours of work from individual perspective, and everything should remain as normal as it was. But yes, with the time, it has a bring back to normal. But initially, yes, there was a discussion with customers that they were saying that, okay, fine, do you think that the productivity will remain same or not? So initially, we onboarded customers saying that, okay, fine, you were getting a productivity of 8 hours to 9 hours on daily basis as individual. You might get a productivity of 7 hours now, because you have different calls in which the team is involved. Earlier, what will happen is you get into a room, you say, okay, fine, I require only leads to be there on the call, rest remaining of them can go, because leads might coordinate it before the time at their desk, what exactly has happened, right? So that kind of things was possible when you had the human touch and you were in one office. But now with this, what has happened is the timings for the calls for each individual has increased. It's now mandatory for developers also to join the Scrum call and bring their points in front, which they might have not discussed with dev leads or tech leads in that matter. So that has increased. So wherein we have onboarded customers to ensure that, yes, the productivity will remain same, but you might have a dip of 1 hour to 2 hours on daily basis because you have now calls being tracked and you have customers calls as well, right? So those all have come up and they're now positive because they have seen whenever there's a stretch that is required from the team, they have got that. Whenever there's a weekend effort that is required, they've got that as well. But yes, so definitely there was initial hiccup, but yeah, it has now smoothed enough. The expectations are very clear. We are very clearly set. The transparency is the key role right now, key goal for us to make sure that from service-oriented company and providing your services to level-based customers as well, right? You need to ensure that your transparency is maintained and they know what exactly your individual is doing and what is the goal after each day. So
correct.
Yeah.
Awesome. So it it looks like a win-win situation for the customers, for us, the service providers back in India, the development centers back in India, with this new concept of distributed teams, agility in distributed teams, and we are all adapting beautifully to this. And I feel really great to be part of such a team where, we are adapting to this new normal. So on the same note, I would like to thank all of you, all the audience, all the panelists for being part of this panel discussion today and sharing all your thoughts, all your ideas on this. And thank you, audience, for the wonderful questions that you've put forward to all our panelists. Thanking all of you again.